Before that, let's take a look at the headlines, and I can bet that on all front pages of the newspapers, you'll see a bit of what was said by the finance minister yesterday as he read to the country and to Parliament the mid-year budget review. And so Ghanaian Times will start off with that. It says mid-year 2021 budget review will avoid jobless economic growth, according to the finance minister. Remember, he had mentioned that there's a plan to create about 1 million jobs, especially among the youth, and we're looking at entrepreneurship. And so there's a plan, the Youth Bank and a number of other things that is supposed to help generate some income for young people and, of course, find them some jobs. Governments can't make any financial demand. Minority, replies Finance Minister on no request for extra money claim. And in fact, the minority leader, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, had mentioned that government was drinking from an empty calabash and debt forgiveness is our only hope. We'll get into that as well. But the sectionist leader arrested, arranged and granted 80,000 Ghana cedis bail in whole. Now, the Daily Graphic also talking about the mid-year budget review says we'll stick to budget targets, according to the finance minister. Also on page 16, business community economists welcome budget review. And Asin North residents gear up for by-election. And also on page 16 again, government sets aside 23% of budgets for education. And health minister chose safety over procedure. That's according to a group. You'll find that story on page 18, and it should be about the COVID-19 measures that were put in place and, of course, the procurement of vaccines. Daily Guide says health minister lauded for bold admission, 1 million jobs coming, no new taxes, according to the finance minister. And also more trouble for, in quotes, Canada MP Haruna attacks judge. NPP sets ground rules for 2024. The Finder, we have a photo of the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and says, let's make public administration better, as he charges new graduates. And also Ghana to develop homegrown strategy to extract fossil fuel. Young tourism sector players must be innovation-driven entrepreneurs, according to the Minister for Tourism, Dr. Awal. Government tackles jobless growth with 1 million jobs initiative to promote SMEs growth, support new ventures and stimulate innovation and startups. And finally, the Business and Financial Times says mid-year budget review, 1 million jobs for youth coming. That must be one of the biggest, from the budget review yesterday, and everybody seems to be talking about it. Of course, an economist has said that finally government is listening to the cries of young people in the country, as it has touched on the creation of jobs for the youth and addressing unemployment in the country. Government will commit to fiscal discipline to achieve deficit targets, according to the finance minister. GSE revising its rules, OTC guidelines imminent, and 120 million Ghana cedi seed capital for tourism sector SMEs. In the studios this morning, I have the Deputy Minister of Energy, also the MP for Sekondi, lawyer Andrew Ejapa Mesa. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you doing?
I'm well.
Good week? Yeah?
It's a lot of things happening. Climaxed yesterday with the media review budget.
Yeah.
Positive indication, by all means. We're getting out of the woods. And so I'm particularly excited that we are going to have a discussion about it this morning.
Well, the minority leader says you're drinking from an empty calabash.
Of course, what else do you expect from the opposition, who only 6 days after the IMF had issued their assessment of the Ghanaian economy, goes to organize a policy dialogue forum and paints an amalgam situation that is clearly inconsistent with the outlook that the IMF had projected Ghana. Okay. And of course, in the run-up to the mid-year review budget, they speculated wildly that there was going to be a supplementary budget. And when the finance minister comes and, consistent with the law, finds it unnecessary to submit a supplementary, then goes ahead to indicate that it's not coming for any more money.
Then they turn around. Okay.
Of course, because the law is kept.
Don't worry, we'll get into that. This is just introductory, by the way.
To tell everybody that we are drinking from an empty calabash.
We'll come to that.
I guess their salaries have not been paid yet.
Well, Comrade Murtala Mohammed, hold on. Ceasefire for now. Comrade Murtala Mohammed is also in the studios, and he's the MP for Tamale Central. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah,
but next time when you address him, comrade, address me patriot.
Why?
Because
you don't like lawyer anymore?
That's the nomenclature that he and I uses.
Oh, I see. Okay, so we should shelve the lawyer or counsel and say patriot.
Just when Mutala and I.
I see. Interesting. You have some agreements between the two of you.
I don't have any agreement.
You don't have any? How are you doing, by the way?
We can't complain. I guess most Ghanaians can't complain because we are suffocating and they live in luxury. So he has the luxury to sit here to tell us that the budget was the most outstanding budget, media budget to have been presented. When you make such statements, you are making the ordinary Ghanaian more angry.
Why so?
People are suffering. People don't even have food to eat. Insecurity everywhere. In fact, people are experiencing even doom, so he knows. Now he sits here and he says that, oh, the finance minister made the most outstanding presentation ever in his world. Sometimes, you see, you don't use your position or analyze people suffering from a distance. And that is precisely what they engage in. I can understand it's a script, and every single communicator of the MPP this morning, you can glance through all the media houses. They be having the same narrative.
But they've talked about, you know, providing jobs for young people and addressing some of the major concerns as well. And you don't think that's outstanding, especially for young people?
One of the major programs that the MPP made a whole lot of noise about was NAPCO. The fact that they created 100,000 jobs, even though that was an absolute lie because of the information we had in terms of the budgetary allocation for NAPCO. NAPCO was not mentioned. It wasn't mentioned. And one was expecting that the media budget, it wasn't, because NAPCO beneficiaries are owned by this government. National service persons, the allowances are in huge areas. Yet he sits here and says that, oh, everything is perfect. I think that it is good we encourage them to make such statements. They are so insensitive to the plight of the suffering mass of this country.
But is that not the address that they are giving? That, of course, maybe there have been challenges, and clearly we know that there have been challenges with unemployment. And so they are going to create the youth bank, which is supposed to provide some funds for young people to start businesses.
Bella, there wasn't a single statement made by President Nanado between 2016 to 2020 without such a statement being pregnant with NAPCO. Every single statement. Even when they were talking about sports, they would bring NAPCO. When they were talking about media, they would bring NAPCO. It wasn't mentioned. And I'm saying that we challenge the figures they claim. And if you want to know whether these people have done terrible in the area of creating jobs, just go to the ILO website and check the unemployment rate in this country. It is increasing.
Okay.
It is increasing. So if the same government comes out to say that, oh, we are going to create 1 million jobs, I mean, it's a talking shop government. President Nanado and the entire government, they talk more. And you see, I have said on this program, what they do to the people of this country is what I describe as cartoon scenario reality. They create their own world, create a reality, so that they're expecting people to come along. Unfortunately, people can no longer come along with speeches. People can no longer come along with fantasies and promises. People want to come along with their life experiences, what they go through. And now he mocked that our salaries not being paid. He is mocking us, mocking not just the NDC, everybody in this country. There are still workers who haven't had their salaries. For a deputy minister to sit on national television and mock them that their salaries are not being paid, well, I'll leave that to your viewing public. Okay.
Well, I'll come back to you. Patriot. I almost said lawyer. Well, he says I should call him a patriot.
Who is not a patriot in this one?
He said when he's on with you, so we'll just stick to that.
I don't have any such agreement with you.
With him. Okay.
I'm a comrade, and I insist I'm a comrade.
He's also insisting he's a patriot. Let's stick to that.
He didn't insist.
But he has a right to attribute himself titles.
I haven't attributed.
Nobody else has that right.
Oh my God. So we're going to have an argument about titles this morning.
I don't want to be addressed as comrade.
Okay.
I don't mind.
Maybe he wants comrade instead. But let's move on. Let's move on, lawyer.
The argument.
So I mean, very topical is the issue of jobs, and I mean, we might as well start with that, because yesterday the speaker disclosed that, you know, and I'll read a bit of what he said about the employment and jobs for our youth. So he says, Mr. Speaker, the Enterprise and Youth Support Fund, which aligns with government's overall strategy of developing a competitive and viable private sector economy, will set up a youth bank with the aim of financing youth-led startup businesses across the country. And as part of this initiative, an online investment hub will be established for youth across the country to access information for the purpose of establishing businesses. Under this initiative, it's estimated that 100,000 jobs will be created. This is out of the 1 million jobs that we're told will be created for young people. This is not the first youth-oriented, plan for jobs for them. And a lot of questions have been asked about sustainability. And as Comrade rightly mentioned, issues of NAPCO, National Service, and a few others, youth in agric and all of that. There have been clear challenges with funding, with payments and all of that. How do we intend to sustain this new, well, I could say new because of the setting up of a youth bank and all of that. How do we intend to sustain this and to make sure that we will be able to provide this 1 million jobs in the next 2.5 years?
In the first place, I haven't sought to mock any Ghanaian on this show. I was only responding to a specific assertion that had been made by the NDC that we were drinking from an empty calabash. Obviously, an empty calabash presupposes that there's nothing in the kitty to pay for government workers' salaries, basic goods and services, and expenditures that the state would ordinarily incur on a day-to-day basis. And so I suggested that as he sits here, if it was an empty calabash, would his salaries have been paid? But I'm sure that he's earned his monthly keep.
Have I told you myself?
And so to suggest that we, of course, I mean, the rhetoric of the opposition obviously should not surprise anybody, particularly our discerning viewers this morning. So for me, that shouldn't even take too much of our time because their expectation.
Okay, let's carry on then.
Supplementary budget was going to be rolled out was not met. All their predictions were put to naught. You see, it's important that we understand what it is that the mid-year review is all about. And like the finance minister indicated in his introduction, this is founded on section 28 of the Public Financial Management Act, which then requires that the finance minister, by the 31st of the financial year, appear before Parliament to provide an indication of where we are with the budget that had been approved for him in the November of the preceding year.
Yeah.
And for emphasis, just to read a specific section, 28(2)(e), and where necessary, plans for submitting a proposed supplementary budget for approval by Parliament. So if the finance minister deems it unnecessary in the presentation of the mid-year budget that the appropriation that was made for him in the full-year budget is sufficient to meet his needs, then there's no need for him to submit a supplementary budget. And so it cannot be that because we are drinking from an empty calabash, that is why no supplementary budget was submitted.
But we have not appointed the MCEs. We don't have the board of directors and all of that. And so is that probably not a reason why
not at all.
Government is not asking for more money?
Not at all, because the program for the year includes all the expenditure that would be attributable to the appointment of MMDCs and all that, because those are regular functional government work that is done. And MMDCs are still in place as we speak, except that they are in an acting capacity. Okay, and the expenditure that is attributable to the role that they play is already been incurred by the state. Okay, yes, there were some realignments that the finance minister had made because of the savings that we've made from the interest payments that had been reduced, because of the prudent management of the debt portfolio, and also the salary increases that has had to be made for public sector employees that then is being realigned. And because it is all within the appropriation framework, then he's not coming back to ask for additional funding.
But 7 months into the government is not complete. We still have not appointed new MDCs and all of that. And so then how do you expect that government will be able to run?
Government is complete.
Money is not,
you see,
how is it complete?
Of course, the MMDCs themselves in the first place were appointed for 4 years.
But it's not just them, it's the boards, the CEOs of the state institutions and all of that.
CEOs of state institutions do not operate from the central government budget. Unless, of course, they are subvented. And provision will be made in the annual budget for the payment of board allowances and salaries for those categories of employees.
But don't the activities augment what government does?
I didn't get that.
I'm saying that the activities that they would also put out, does it not also support or augment?
No, it does. Those are functional. Those are not necessarily budgetary allocation dependent. Okay, because whatever budgetary allocation that any MMDC, or I mean MDA, has been allocated, would have been allocated at the beginning of the financial year.
So how long are we going to have to wait for this to persist?
But those are regular governance matters that takes place at every transition. Yes.
But how long?
His Excellency, my understanding, as we speak now, boards are being inaugurated. The processes for appointing MMDCs or confirming some, okay, and some obviously would lose their jobs. But every district assembly has an acting MDCE as we speak. So there's no vacuum.
Okay.
That's the assurance that the good people of this country ought to have. Of course, I've had occasion to question the if you like, the vacuum that the transition from a government that is already in place that then is retained, that the constitution then requires him to go through the process of appointing ministers, go through vetting and all that. It takes time. Okay, and so as a people, we ought to evaluate that arrangement and see whether government that is continuing ought to go through that process that leaves
exactly.
Yeah, so
because I mean, there's a lot of money that we're not getting because the assemblies have not been finalized yet. Road tolls and a number of them. So we need all that money.
Of course. I mean,
so I guess when you say that you're concerned about the vacuum that's created.
Yeah, I mean, it would be good for substantive positions to be filled so that certain decisions that would ordinarily require substantive position occupant to take is then clothed with the power to take. Yeah, so I agree. There are some issues with that. But for purposes of the conversation, okay, let's just deal with the budget issues and the youth employment initiatives that government is rolling out.
And I'm asking about that because how sustainable is it?
You see, if you look particularly with this youth bank that you made reference to, the next paragraph addresses the sustainability issue. Because the finance minister indicated that the EYSF, which is the youth bank initiative, and let's not get it confused, because this is not the only initiative, and that this is not to substitute existing policies that are being rolled out under the NYEP and all that. Those are all there. This is additional because obviously...
So this is not to cure, because NAPCO is ending. We know we're phasing it out. And, you know, there are people who were promised
where are you getting that
jobs.
from?
Are we not phasing out NAPCO?
I'm asking you where you're getting that from.
But I'm asking
it's not been indicated in
because
the budget.
NAPCO was not supposed to be long-term or permanent necessarily, because we were told that eventually these people will be given permanent jobs.
Yes,
even that, many of them have complained.
Yeah, of course. Because the overarching objective that was contained in this mid-year budget is for the private sector to be the ones that is providing the jobs. And so these initiatives are all intended to be private sector driven. You're providing support to the youth, to those who have ideas, that the venture capital fund, which is going to manage this youth bank policy, additional to all the programs that government has rolled out over the past 5 years that has not been able to solve all our youth employment problems. You ought to be creative in introducing new policy that then helps in reducing the number further.
But if these other interventions had been successful, then we probably would not need to introduce these new interventions,
Bella,
would we? We have youth in afforestation.
In Ghana are many.
So many of them.
Yes, of course. It's all ongoing. But that is not to say that that in themselves are sufficient to accommodate all the youth in the country. There is still some youth employment. So are you suggesting that government, by reason of the fact that it's introduced some policies that are ongoing, ought not introduce new policies to deal with some gaps that exist in that space?
Okay, so
that cannot be your suggestion. In any event, you see, if you look, the You can giggle all you want, but please let me make my point, and then when I'm done...
Do I need a license to giggle? Do I need a license to do that?
You see, Bella,
carry on.
Go ahead, you are talking to the public.
The sustainability issue, like I indicated, is spelled out right in the next paragraph. Mr. Speaker, ESYF will be managed by the Venture Capital Fund, which is being revamped to be better positioned to carry out the designated activities as a fund manager. And so the Venture Capital Fund that is already in place is the vehicle that government is going to provide some additional funding by the revamping to then evaluate these creative ideas that the youth have, support them with capital so that they can roll them out. So it's well thought through. It is not the only policy. I indicated the programs that were introduced in the budget are in themselves, I believe, about 5. So that is all intended to lead to the creation of 1 million additional jobs for the youth in the country. And I think it's a good initiative that we all ought to support.
Finally, before I move to Comrade, I just want to find out, because we've pegged the employment of young people or youth for the next 2.5 years or 3 years at 1 million. What went into deciding on that figure of 1 million?
Of course, if
and
you
within
have
2.5 years.
If you have a population that is comprised of 71% being youth, then you look at your resource envelope and what it is that you can do to support how many. And so the 1 million figure is a function of an assessment of all the government programs and the impact that it potentially can make in reducing the unemployment numbers by the 1 million.
Okay, but we already had the Business Development Ministry.
Yes.
And that was funding a lot of young people. Yes. I remember that Dr. Awao was doing quite a good job with that, and John Kuma as well. But then we don't have them anymore. So is this a way of sort of bringing them back?
No, you cannot say.
In a different way?
Bella, the fact that some ministerial realignment or ministries have been realigned doesn't take away those agencies that were operating. The Zongo Development Fund, as a body, I mean the development authorities, which were under the Ministry of Special Development Initiative. The ministry is no longer there.
Because the president told us they had completed their mandate.
No, not at all.
The president didn't say that, which is why he closed down some of them and decided to put some of them under other ministries as well.
Of course, the Ministry for Reorganization, that then set the ministries, the new regions, had completed this task. So it was subsumed under the local government ministry. Hold on.
You land on this for me so I can bring Comrade in.
What His Excellency the President said.
That
with respect to some of these agencies, yes, there was a ministry that was set to provide some specific direction. Those objectives have been achieved, but that is the institutional arrangement. But the function that the Coastal Development Authority, Middle Development Authority, and Northern Development Authority perform is still there. And so they have been put under the office of the President for that function to be run from there. That doesn't mean that they've been taken away.
Comrade,
that is the same thing that the National Youth Innovation Program, NYEIP, is doing. It's still in place.
All right. Let me bring Comrade in to respond to these issues of youth employment and the youth bank and all that.
1 minute, because I realize that it's my turn.
I was told that it was going to be a one-on-one.
Well, it's my turn.
So you can leave if you want.
No, it can never be a one-on-one.
But so why is he telling me he wants to give me 1 minute?
Because very eloquent communicator. He was struggling to find his words.
Not at all.
How was he
was struggling to find his words to defend a media budget. And my understanding is that his ministry would have made an input in that budget. My understanding is that, having been in his position some time ago, that he would have been conversant with the budget. He is conversant with the budget. It is difficult to defend the indefensible. And once again, the slippery pretense of the MPP to be what they are not is demonstrated this morning. I thought that my brother would have just apologized to the ordinary Ghanaian whose conditions and non-payment of salaries he mocked a while ago.
He says he didn't mock them.
No. I think that your viewing public listened to him. I thought he would have just apologized and then move on. But of course, he's an MPP person. He won't apologize.
He says he didn't mock them.
The more the people of this country get hurt and unemployed and frustrated, the happier they are. Look,
that's an unfair statement, because
I said the happier they are.
That's an unfair statement. I don't think that they'll be happy that young people are unemployed in the country, because that is bad on government.
Why did he mock it? Why did he? Even if MPs are not paid, granted that he wasn't referring to the people of this country and the members of NDC taxpayers, are we not also citizens of this country? That he think that yes, it is good to mock the NDC, but it is not good to mock these people. Ask him, he knows. First quarter of this year, have they paid? If they have, then it is yet to hit the accounts of even members of parliament. First quarter. We are in what? We are getting to August. The purpose for which those things are done is to help alleviate the suffering of people by creating opportunities in the various constituencies. So clearly, the people of this country are actually struggling. He described the NDC's press conference as creating a picture of Armageddon. I didn't know that they created a lot of pictures of Armageddon, and those Armageddon pictures they created, the current president was the one who addressed those press conferences. It is the responsibility of minority at any point in time to hold government accountable. So if the minority thinks that it is important and appropriate for us to hold a press conference to point out to the people of this country the struggle that we go through, he described that as Armageddon. In any case, you asked him a fantastic question. You claimed that you created jobs under NAPCO. You claimed that you created 100,000 jobs. Everybody in this country knew that those statements were untrue, because if you look at the budgetary allocation, the amount of money the government promised they were paying beneficiaries of NAPCO, it certainly didn't add up. And run the government is not like my grandmother selling his cocoa on the street, that you choose to do what you want to do. You claim that that was completely defeated. And that is why I stated earlier, go through the ILO website and find out the unemployment rate. Juxtapose that with the unemployment rate in 2016, 2017. You will come to one conclusion without any conclusion. And that conclusion is that this government is a disaster. They haven't been able to create the needed jobs the people of this country are looking for. I was scandalized when we made reference to my senior brother, Dr. Awol, in terms of the kinds of things they were doing, creating jobs. Those monies were given to people for the purposes of winning elections. 2020, that is a fact. We have been demanding for them to account to the people of this country how they expended the amount of money that they borrowed for and on behalf of the people of this country in the name of COVID. They haven't been able to do that. And every time such demands are made, not just by NDC, but even by journalists like you and many other civil society organizations, the response have always been insults, arrogance, and disrespect. That is the mark of this government. We want to find out the jobs you have created. How can you have a program that you claim that you have created so many jobs, and you don't even mention that? And when you raise the question about NAPCO beneficiaries are in several months of arrears. National service persons are in several months of arrears. National service persons. These are young graduates who have finished universities. They are not working. They take allowances so that the allowances can help them get transportation to go to their places to fulfill their requirements as people who have finished education. The state spent money in educating people. So the national service, the purpose of it is that you pay back at least a gesture, that symbolism that the state spends money in educating you, so you also have some contributions. These people don't work. How do they get to their workplaces? And these are some of the issues we are raising. Now, you made mention about MMDCs have not been appointed. And my brother is telling us, oh, they are in acting capacity. He knows very well. Acting capacity, the mandate and the responsibility, the psychological setting of being in an acting capacity and someone who is not in an acting capacity are not the same. But you know why? Common fund have not even been paid. District assemblies common fund have not even been paid. How does the wheel of government, roll if you don't have this? The purpose for our governance, the most important ingredients of the governance structure of this country is the local governance. Because we decided as a state, we are no longer going to be having planning from top to down. We must plan from down to top. Now, if they don't even have the ingredients, the energy to plan from down to top, nothing has happened within this year. How about the boards? Now, he said that, oh, those people, they don't have direct. The board, the constitution of those boards have a profound impact in the execution of government business every single day. So these are some of the issues people are raising. The minister didn't even have the pity for the people of this country.
But at least it's gradual. We know that some boards have been set up.
Coming events, they say cast their shadows before them. I mean, the shadows that have been casted by the events.
So it's a gradual process. They're getting there. We're doing it.
7th month, and it is not a new government that was formed. This is the same president who claimed to have won elections. We know that the elections were rigged. Granted that they won the elections. A new government. If it was a new government constituted, a new political party winning an elections, they may have some excuses. We have never even had that. You have a continuation of the same administration. And in any case, they didn't even change most of the ministers. It was just a recycling of those ministers. And they have failed to constitute board. The reason is that there's no money. If the minority states that there is no water in the calabash, there isn't any water in the calabash. How can the minister ask the people of this country to contribute more money? How can you how can you even come seeking an additional approval of funding to execute government business when you don't have? Ask him debt to GDP. Ask him. It's over 80%.
But if you say there's no money, I mean, people are still paying road tolls, the market taxes and all of that. Taxes are still being paid. And so how then do you conclude and say that there is no money?
They are chopping.
Who is chopping?
The government and the legs of my friend, they are chopping.
How do you know they are chopping
Their
the money?
salaries are being paid. They are given coupons. That is why he can mock those of us. And the ordinary Ghanaian.
He says he didn't mock.
I'm saying he did. It's not about what he says. It's not about what he claimed to have said. That is why, look, granted that he was mocking NDC, granted that he was mocking the minority in parliament, are we also not citizens of this country? Of course, yes. President Nanado says that some of us are spectators and some are citizens. Perhaps he has the license to mock those of us who are deemed to be spectators. People are not. Common funds have not been released. How can they execute the projects? In fact, my background is development planning. Every district assembly, every year they are supposed to do a review of their development plan. A lot of the district, any year, if they are not able to complete the execution of their project, and it takes about 2-3 years, certainly cost of the execution of those projects would have quadrupled, because prices of items are increasing day by day. I listened to the chief executive of GASEM, and he was explaining why there has been a tremendous increase in the prices of cement. He said that it's the taxes. The cost of inputs are very high. They keep on taxing people. There is nothing to show. Tell me, what do they have to show? A lot of the projects that have been executed where they went and commissioned without even having the decency to invite President Mahama to participate in the commissioning of those projects. There were projects that were executed by President Mahama without any shame. They were even telling us about the Agenda 100 and whatever. 111.
111, yes.
When was the promise made about the 80 hospitals that they were going to build?
We'll come to that.
The promise was made in somewhere, I think the October 2020, that they promised that they were,
no, it was earlier, in fact, June or July
2020. And they said they were going to exit.
They said should have
for you to understand the mentality of these people, even in June 2020, President Nanado had the courage to look into our miserable faces, Ghanaians, and told us that they were going to execute that by the end of the year. We raised questions, what he described as Armageddon. We raised questions and we challenged the possibility of that. They mocked us. They told us that we didn't know what we were talking about. Have they been able to execute?
Well, they said they are done with phase 1, and now we're going to phase 2, which is construction.
The president's promise was very clear. He said that they were going to execute the projects by the end of the year. That was what they said. And we all knew that within 6 months, there was no way you could do that. Even when we raised the issues and ordinary Ghanaians raised the issues, once again, they mocked us. Well, have they been able to do that?
Okay.
Now, if you promise to give me if you ask me that I should tighten my belt, and you don't even have belt hooks. You don't even have belt hooks, let alone having belt. You promised me that you are going to execute a number of hospitals within 6 months, when you knew in the heart of your heart that we are not being truthful to the people of this country.
Are you saying that we've not done anything at all because we have the Obatampa and Jumapa and all of that?
What has been done?
Has it not at least
I say what
to
has
some
been
extent?
done. Bella, it's not anything that is coming from me, because if I say it once again, you mock me. What has been done? Tell me, as a neutral arbiter in this discourse, what has been done? What is there to show? Absolutely nothing is there to show. The only thing that is there to show is the chop. Look, I have indicated here, when the Minister for Transport appeared before Parliament and lied to the people of this country by the figures he gave, the number of traffic, the number of people who use our airport cannot be hidden. You cannot manipulate it. I have stated here that between September to December 2020, that 235,250 passengers went through this our airport, and they each paid the $150, that fraudulent amount of money that was imposed on the people of this country by a company that operated without a license, courtesy to the current Minister for Health, by a company whose leadership is wanted in Nigeria. I raised the issue here. And you know what the minister did? When he appeared before Parliament, he understated the figures and stated that, oh, we made only $17 million and Ghana got $1.4 million. It was more than that. If you do the calculation, it's over $35 million. These are some of the issues we are talking about.
Okay.
When you claim that there is no money, when we claim that the economy is challenged, when we make such claims, let people see the demonstration of the modesty in you, in the kinds of lifestyle that you want to put up. We don't see that, and then you sit and then you tell us that.
I put a disclaimer on what has just been said by Comrade, by the way, because we'll have to verify
on
all that you said about the monies that are coming in, how much has been generated.
I made that statement here some time ago.
And the airport company and all that. I mean, you're saying that they are also being looked for in Nigeria and all of that. So I'm just putting a disclaimer on that.
The gentleman is being looked for in Nigeria.
We will get
that not the most shocking aspect.
Later, but at least let me put a disclaimer on that.
The shocking aspects of this is that we sit here and then we claim that we are going to create jobs for people. They engage one Nigerian bank. That Nigerian bank engaged graduates of this country, considering the hazards of the work they are doing, and pay them 850 Ghana cedis a month.
When was this?
They are still operating at the airport. Go take your journalists to go and find out how much they pay the graduates who are the first contact of possible COVID-19 persons, because some through the contact have been reported to have this. They pay them less than that.
Okay.
They open an offshore account. Look, Bella, these are issues we need to talk about. These are issues that are dangerous to the economy and the progress of this country. Once again, my brother says, and he thinks that it is normal. You people are making so much noise because your salaries haven't been paid.
Let me bring a lawyer in, because clearly we know that there are leakages in revenue generation in the country, which is why, we have between January and June, we're told that our revenue generation was at 28.3 billion Ghana cedis. That's 6.5% of the GDP, as against the target of 32 billion, 32.4. Now, you remember, and of course you know that, we had been told that revenue generation targets for this entire year was going to be around 72.4 billion Ghana cedis. And so if we look at how much we have been able to raise between January and June this year, that means that we have about 44 billion Ghana cedis that we're expected to generate as well. Clearly, we've seen what the finance minister has mentioned, that we're implementing RAISE, which is one of the ways by which we'll be able to figure out how to raise revenue and block the leakages and all of that. That probably is one of the reasons why we're where we are today, because there's not much money being generated as against our expenditure. How do we intend to raise that revenue, the 44 billion Ghana cedis that is expected to be raised for the rest of the year, to augment all the efforts that we're making, in the country, as against some of the claims that Comrade has also made?
Bella, before I even go to the revenue measures that was outlined in the media review budget that the finance minister presented yesterday, it's important that when we are having discourses of this nature, we are circumspect with the kind of words that we use. Chop. What does it mean? So, by reason of the fact that somebody is employed by the state and the person gets to be paid for the work that he does for the state, makes the person engage in chop.
Is that what I said?
But you say I get coupons, and so I'm living well. chop.
Of course.
And others are not.
No, please.
That's exactly.
Please don't put words in my mouth. The idea
Winding
of
up-
hold on.
please,
You
but
don't
I sat here
misrepresent.
quietly.
No, but you
Can
don't.
he
When you
respond
were
to
speaking-
that,
No,
comrade?
you don't misrepresent.
I sat
Hold on.
Okay. Let him just make that
don't-
statement.
Respond to what?
You
I-
don't-
Let him just make that
exactly what he
statement.
said.
You don't
let him just make that
misrepresent
statement.
me.
What did you say exactly?
The idea of the chop was a different statement altogether. You asked me what they do with the money, and I said chop. When I talked about the fact that he lives in comfort, and that is why he thinks he can mock us, it has got nothing to do with the chop. I'm not denying. I said this government is engaged in chop, but to say that the chop was in reference to you because you take coupons, that is not true.
Okay, all right.
For the record,
Please respond now.
I don't live in comfort.
Oh, you do.
Just because I'm a public servant. I don't.
You do.
It is not important to put out my personal life prior to going into public service on national TV. But I don't see this as comfort at all. I see it as service to my country. And I'm sure that is precisely the same reason you have that you offered yourself to serve.
That's why I didn't.
And so let's put
that's why I
these
didn't
things
mock
in
those who
context.
haven't had
Because you
their
see,
salaries.
as far as I'm concerned, if you sit on national TV and allege that the Minister of State came to Parliament and lied,
Yes.
when in fact lying
To Parliament, yeah.
Parliament
Yes,
is a grievous matter,
of course.
and don't take any steps to hold the minister who you allege to have lied,
I'm in the process of doing that.
to have lied on the floor, then it's better you,
I'm in the process of
you
doing
take your
that.
step
I'm
Comrade,
giving the- I'm in
comrade,
the
please
process-
let
before
him,
you
please
come
let
and
him
sit here
respond to.
and put it out. Because many a time you hear them make those assertions and never take any further step. You know why? Because there's absolutely no basis in law for them to take the kind of step that would lead to the censuring of ministers of state. I take this job very, very, very seriously. And so it's important that, look, we can agree to the
I'm in the
issues.
process of doing that.
Take the step and let's
Yeah,
have a
yeah, I'm in
conversation
the
on it. You
process.
see, we can debate the issues without the name calling.
What's her name?
Because you making all sorts of statements here that really, look, all the figures that were put out by the finance minister, thankfully, we belong to an international community. We have signed agreements that bind us. The IMF Article 4 annual review that they do assesses all the finances of this government. On the 20th of June, just 6 days before the NDC put out their policy dialogue series and painted a picture
Describe it that way. Just say that.
as if to say Ghana was on the verge of doom. Listen to what the IMF said. In part, says the pandemic had a severe impact on economic activity. Growth slowed to 0.4% in 2020. Is that not the same figure in the budget?
Yeah.
From 6.5% in 2019. Is that not factual? Food prices hiked and poverty increased. The fiscal deficit, including energy and financial sector cost, worsened to 15.2% of GDP, with a further 2.1% of GDP in additional spending financed through the accumulation of domestic arrears. Public debt rose to 79% of GDP. The current account deficit widened slightly to 3.1% of GDP, as the decline in oil export was partially offset by higher gold prices, resilient remittances, and weaker imports. The Ghanaian cedi remained stable against the US dollar, partly due to central bank intervention, and gross international reserves remained at 3.2 months of imports. External and domestic financing conditions tightened considerably at the start of the pandemic, but have improved since, and Ghana successfully returned to the international capital markets for a 3 billion euro bond issuance in March 2021. Now, listen. An economic recovery is underway. This is the IMF. How is this assessment different from what the finance minister provided to the people of Ghana yesterday. He admitted the challenges that we had encountered as a country over the past year, indeed, over the past 3 years, indicated the steps that this government had taken to cushion the economy, what it had led to having to incur additional public debt. These are matters of fact. Nobody is running away from them. And has proposed a plan that the IMF has endorsed to get us out. Indeed, the 0.4% growth of 2020, first quarter 2021, we grew by 3.1%. That is even better than your 2015 growth, when you were not in a pandemic.
But we seem to be blaming COVID for everything that's happening. COVID, and that's what the minority had mentioned, that our war started even before COVID. Our wars
did not start before COVID.
That's not true.
Hold on. We had some structural issues that had to be resolved. There was no way that government could have looked the other way like they did for the banking sector crisis to crumble the economy of this country. Absolutely no way. For 1.4 million people's deposits to have been lost. Inconceivable. So a responsible government took steps and procured funds that impacted the public debt. It's a matter of fact. That's why in the reporting, government said that, look, we have had to take some extraordinary decisions. That is not part of our daily, regular budgetary cycle. And so we are disintegrating those two numbers and reporting the regular budgetary cycle expenditure and revenue that we do, and then this extraordinary expenditure that we've incurred. What was the allegation?
But if we don't have money, we seem to be doing a lot at the same time.
Of course, but is
that not where a problem is?
No, Bella, not at all. Because you see, if as we sit here, I'm sure Mutala or anybody's son is involved in an emergency that requires some funding to take care of the person, are you going to say because your revenue is insufficient, you're going to let your kid die? I'm sure that you look for the funds to make sure that whatever medical needs that your child needs is addressed. And then subsequently you take steps.
But it's about priority, is it not?
Is that not your child's life is not priority? The engine of the economy, the financial system, is not priority. All the energy sector, public, private purchase, power purchase agreements that they've contracted, that government is having to deal with, should not be done. It comes at a cost.
Okay.
But for me, how is the government planning that all these necessary expenditures that have been incurred, okay, is resolved? And to put a check on reckless government expenditure, we pass the Fiscal Responsibility Act. That, because of COVID, had to be suspended. But the minister indicated that we are working to bring it back by 2024. Clear plan. Let's debate the nuances, the figures, and stop the name calling. That's all I'm saying.
And that's what I'm asking. That 44.1 billion revenue that we're hoping to generate before the end of the year, how are we going to do this?
But of course, that's why they launched the RACE program. Okay, that we're going to intensify the monitoring, okay, enforcement, so that what is due to the state, the digitalization agenda that has been introduced through the Ghana card system and the integration with the social security numbering and the TIN numbering is all
easier said. No,
it's not a matter of easier. You see, Bella, unless of course you don't believe that these things are necessarily ought to go through a certain process. It cannot be said that from get-go, then the finance minister has all the data available and collecting the revenue. No. He ought to put the systems in place.
What are the timelines for putting these systems in place and integrating? What are the timelines? Because we don't have all of them in place.
The Ghana card is not in place. The Ghana card is
not in place.
Hold on. But the Ghana card is not in place.
No, but we need to integrate all of them into one database, no?
Of course.
And that's what I'm asking, that what are the timelines? Because that also helps. Okay.
The integration of the Ghana card and the TIN numbers and then the SNIT have all started. Indeed, you can check on your phone, your status. These are matters of fact.
So what are the timelines?
But it's ongoing. And I'm saying...
Until when do we have everything integrated?
As I sit here, I do not know the status of the integration. But what I can tell you and what I can say on authority, that process has commenced. It's public knowledge. I'm saying that if all that comes together, then obviously it will impact our ability to raise more revenue, which then will mean that we would not resort to more debt, and that will give us room to clear all these obligations that were necessary, that we had to incur, and then put the economy on a sound footing that has already commenced. These are facts. These were not my words that I read to you. The IMF report is what I quoted to you. My last statement before I put my phone down, where it says that an economic recovery is underway.
But we have many
Growth
people who are
is
jobless.
expected to rebound, of course.
Poverty is
And so where are we getting these taxes from?
Bella, many people were in the informal sector. With the introduction of the Ghana card, integration with tin numbering and social security numbers, that then immediately formalizes all people.
How?
And so your transactions that you make, but of course it does.
How does it?
Because every public service that you carry out requires you to provide a certain identification. It gives, but how does the United States and the advanced countries track their citizens?
You were explaining how.
Absolutely. So look, let's not kid ourselves that a lot has been done. The numbers don't lie. When my friends in the NDC speak, I guess that they believe that everybody is a member of the Short Memory Association of Ghana. I'm not. In any event, these are the comparative raw GDP growth percentage figures from 2014.
We make it,
Tell me.
We make it sound very easy.
It's not.
That once we integrate, then that's it. We're going to generate revenue from all these people. I'll let you come in shortly.
But are you suggesting that in a situation where the people within the tax bracket increase from 3 million to 15 million, it's not going to impact on how much government generates? It's not.
Is it going to be that simple?
I'm not saying that it's going to be simple, but I'm asking you, just with the increase in the basket itself, it's not going to impact on the revenue.
But that's why I was also asking you, that we make it sound like once we integrate, then it's going to be automatic revenue generation.
All the revenue measures that were outlined in the budget are clear.
Okay.
That we are going to enforce through monitoring to make sure that everybody that owes something to the public pays. That's a step.
Okay. And final question, because NAPCO, we're told that there was going to be a revenue generation side of NAPCO, and these were supposed to target the informal sector. We still do not have a report as to how successful that has been, the figures that have been generated and all of that, which is why I'm asking.
No, it's a legitimate question. And as I sit here, I don't know the details as regards what the revenue Ghana component of the NAPCO modules has generated. Then it's something that we all can find out and put it out for the benefit of the people of Ghana.
There's a proverb, and apologies to your viewing public before that proverb, that you can't sleep with an itching anus and do not expect to wake up with smelling fingers. That is what is happening to this incompetent and corrupt government. He's now telling us that national identification card, the so-called digitalization, will mobilize revenue. Your question was specific. You have these programs which you intend to execute, and you have given timelines by which the executions will commence. And some of them are supposed to be, the executions are supposed to start this year. You asked a specific question. Where are you getting the money? The IMF report that he read today, the NPP is looking for the IMF to defend them, the very organization they bastardize. They are now taking solace, and they are now expecting the IMF to salvage them. This is your budget, for God's sake. You don't need IMF to defend what the minister presented there. And when I said, my good friend, very intelligent, sharp guy, today, he's been struggling for West to defend the very budget, which indeed he has made input into. But let me make this point. Why, Bella? The questions we are asking are simple. You have read that government has not been able to meet its revenue target consistently. Debt to GDP, if we want to go by the IMF, 79%. Tell me, did we have that under NDC? Hell no. No. What it simply means is that any money you generate, you spend 79% of that money servicing debts. That is not surprising. Last 2 months, MPs, we had even our salary on the almost 15th of the next month. Now, even if MPs could be treated that way, how more the ordinary Ghanaian who suffers and struggles to build this nation to ensure the comfort of the ruling class. Now, there's another point that he raised. I thought that he would have been raising questions about job creation. The people of this country, my honorable patriot friend, are not interested in the kinds of words we sit here, the economic figures. They are interested in basics. They are interested in job creation. The IMF document that you yourself read, clearly, I guess if you had the opportunity, you would have avoided it. They said poverty is increasing.
Is that not why they're addressing it with the creation of jobs for young people?
I'm saying that poverty is increasing under this government. The IMF report that he himself read, expecting us to come to IMF for service. I'm saying that please. Can I finish?
As a result of the impact
you
of COVID.
borrowed money than any other West African country in the name of COVID. COVID affected more African countries than it has affected us. But you have borrowed than all of them. Are you telling me that COVID affected Ghana than South Africa? Are you telling me that COVID affected Ghana than Nigeria, even than Togo? If you want to take the proportion of their population in terms of the number of people who were affected, but you have borrowed than any of those countries. Tell us, Sikano, what did you do with the money? The simple question we are asking, we've been demanding consistently accountability. You went in for $2 billion. You went in for $100 million. You dip your hands into heritage funds. And we are asking you how you spend that money. Is this one too a very difficulty? When we demand accountability from people whose comfort are ensured by our taxes, you tell me that it's not calling. Who would I demand those questions, those answers from? There are ministers who are appointed. Those ministers, including you, have a moral duty and a responsibility to provide the relevant answers when we ask the questions. I sit here, myself and you, we ask the questions that ordinary Ghanaians otherwise would have loved to ask, but they don't have the platform that we have. I raise those issues.
At least to be fair, yesterday the finance minister touched on how much we had spent from the COVID Trust Fund, because he said as at 30th June 2021, we had received 57.15 million Ghana cedis in cash donations, and that was between April 2020 and March 2021.
That is
and
donations.
As at 30th, at least they gave us some figures for that.
That is donations. We are talking about the $2 billion they borrowed. We are talking from the IMF. We are talking about the $100 million from the World Bank. We are talking about the... Please, can I finish? Can I finish? What the minister said, he talked about the amount of money, the COVID Alleviation Fund. Everybody in this country knows that those monies were given to people for the purposes of elections. We were
not exactly.
Bella,
it's unfair to say that.
It is not unfair
because of elections and not because businesses were reeling under COVID.
Bella, there's a proverb in the Gbanda, Abzukan waka gura kumbe down. If you are in the center of the market and they are shouting that someone has stolen saltpeter, and you started running, everybody will know who has stolen. We have been demanding accountability as part of corporate and transparent governance. Come and tell us how you spend those money.
Okay.
Are people not aware, Bella, in this country? Look, what he's trying to suggest. The minister said they spend about 520 million Ghana cedis. Hold on. Please, can I finish?
All right.
It's my turn.
My time is up.
It's my turn. I beg you.
My time is up, gentlemen. We have to go.
He said that the minister of the
Constitution to audit all public
expenditures
and express his opinion to Parliament in due course.
Land for me so we go, please. My time is up. We have to go.
I beg you. Can I land? The fact that we should let the Auditor General do his work doesn't mean that we don't have the right to demand accountability. When in this country we had the communication officer of NADMO who told us that they spend 2 million Ghana cedis each day in providing food for who? Everybody in this country. We are now being told in this statement that the free water, which, by the way, the Minister of Information, my good friend, said that we have to pay for the money anyway. He's telling us that it's still continuing. When we don't even have water in the tap, we've been buying water every day.
Well, our time is up. We have to go. I just want to find out, are you going to contribute 100 Ghana cedis to the building of the cathedral?
I tried to do so this morning.
Oh, okay.
And I will do so.
How do people contribute? Can you please put out the... I hear that...
They told us they were funding for it. They told us. They were funding. Sincerity and candor matter. They told us.
Is it not better now? Because we're not dipping into our taxes?
Why must we? I have no doubt that the Christian community in Ghana has the capacity to do this on their own. Government came out and said that they had funding. Oh, hold on. Government came out and said they had funding. They had funding for it.
We have to go.
He was talking about the health of our kids. The hospitals that have been abandoned by your government. Is this a visionary government?
Okay.
Hospitals built by President.
Thank you, gentlemen, for speaking to us. Comrade Mutala Mohammed is the MP for Tamale Central, and also lawyer Andrew Ejapa Mesa is the MP for Second. Also the Deputy Minister for Energy. Quick one. If you're an HR professional or you intend to build a global career in human resources, whether at the entry level, mid-level, or the strategic level, then join us online this Saturday, 31st July, at 4 p.m. on our information session to understand everything regarding becoming a certified professional in human resource. WhatsApp your name to the number 0244-822-855. Again, 0244-822-855 for the Zoom ID to join the session on Saturday. The WhatsApp number again is 0244-822-855. This announcement is brought to you by the HR Certification Center, the approved provider of the Global Professional HR Certification in Ghana. Big thank you also going out to Sheila Bonsu for styling me every Friday right here on the show. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. The conversation continues. I'm sure all throughout the weekend we'll be trying to get some understanding of the media budget review and some of the issues that have come up. So please stay with us right here on TV3. New Day continues. We have entertainment, we have sports. Johnny and Cookie also have some conversations coming up. We'll be teaching you how to make a special meal this morning on the show, and I'm sure that you'll enjoy that. So keep watching.